could even hear the la 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 la. There's another one. La 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 la. Welcome to That Thing with James J. Asher II. I'm your host, James J. Asher II. I'm waiting for my guest to arrive, and so I'm just gonna pluck around for a minute. Yeah? Let's start that over. All right. Be right back with the guest. Welcome to another episode of That Thing with James J. Asher II. I'm your host. Again, I've already introduced myself. And Emily's here. It's the only guest I can get a hold of. So here's the deal. You probably noticed I've not been putting out episodes as frequently as I usually do, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm also been going totally fucking stir crazy. It's like full Shining. So, yeah. And also, we recorded an episode a few days ago. This is Sunday today. I'm going to release it, like Wednesday or Tuesday or something. But it's Sunday, what is today? The 6th, September 6th. Tomorrow is Labor Day, so yeah. Well, anyway, I recorded a podcast 4 days ago, I believe, and upon further inspection, we decided to not put it out. Why?
It was a little too spicy.
How?
The topic, it got dark.
What was the topic?
It had to do with a presidency.
Not just, it had to do with my presidency. It's not just about the darn Cheeto. It's not just about that. What was the topic about?
Poverty, wealth disparity.
It was about me running for president. I declared my run for presidency and I got fucking canceled before I even got to, get publicly canceled.
It's true.
What do you have to say for yourself? You robbed these people of an extra episode.
Sorry about it. Now you get a new one.
Now you get a new one, and you've also got a secret episode that I might use to extort money out of you if you really want to see it. So here's a little recap. I'm not going to get fully into it, but they deserve to know a little bit.
Okay.
WAP for KAP.
Yeah.
That was my platform, WAP for KAP, which is, I'm running for presidency 2020. You can look for me on the ballot still, although my ads have been canceled, unfortunately. WAP for KAP. What does WAP mean? Wet ass pussy. Yes, wet ass pussy. Like the song by The Stallion, what's her name?
Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. Get a mop and a bucket for this wet ass pussy. Well, I've got a WAP to KAP. My presidential platform is, it's in the secret episode if you ever get to see it. But essentially, it's the most honest and straightforward, yet at the same time progressive. Let me scoot in a little further here. There you go. It's the most progressive platform in that it's total equality. It doesn't matter your age, your religion, the color of your skin, your heritage. Did I already say your religion?
Yeah. Your
religion, your gender, your sexual preferences. None of that stuff matters. It is purely a class-based, progressive platform, a progressive policy to KAP, K-A-P, kill all poor. Because essentially, come on, what does any rich fuck that pushes any rich fuck policy want? More rich.
Money. What's
gentrification out? To push out poor, to push out undesirables, right?
True.
So there's that. all right? You know, bailing out, not only just bailing out like Wall Street executives, but even fucking rewarding them, allowing them to get paid fucking bonuses with zero accountability or repercussion, like in the 2008 recession. Why are they calling it recessions? At what point does it become a depression?
I don't know.
Because right
it
now,
has to be a real bad recession.
but the thing is, like, we're in a recession right now, and like the number of jobs isn't it like equal to what it was in the Great Depression?
I believe so.
So why isn't this called a depression? On top of a fucking pandemic. Is it just more fucking mincing of words to make it sound okay?
Probably. It'll probably be referred to as a depression later on.
Yeah, in like 80 years maybe.
I'd give it 20.
If we're still around.
Yeah.
Which comes back to my very progressive platform, which is, it tackles suffering in general, but also the forthcoming climate disaster. Who knows how much longer we have, but we don't have much longer. And the way things are looking right now, we're not anywhere near getting zero emissions, total renewable energy, because the planet, like the population of the planet, is being fucking held hostage by corporatist, capitalist, neoliberal, neoconservative fuckers. Just rich folk that, you know, they'll be fine. It's the poor people. It's the people who can't afford to, you know, invent some new fucking bunker to survive a fallout type situation. You know, we're all gonna suffer. So part of my WAP for KAP, wet ass pussy, for killing all poor, is to end the suffering. So basically, it was a progressive policy of, mind you, this was all joke. This was all satire. I don't believe any of this shit. It's used, the WAP for KAP idea, let's talk meta talk right now. The WAP for KAP idea is simply a, I can't, it's not allegory, it's not metaphor, but it is a sort of using poetic license as a narrative to talk about the reality of the situation we're in right now. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
So it was basically, you know, if a president, hypothetically, and again, this is satire, this is the satirical idea, it's of the ilk of that one fucking guy who wrote, I have a solution for England. Eat the children. Eat the poor. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like, he did a whole fucking troll thing on, like, eat the poor. Who did that? I'm looking this up. You talk while I look this up.
Sorry, I'm popping my back.
Talk.
I'm trying.
Dead air. Just say talk. Dead air.
Just talking away.
Talk.
I am talking. Did you see that someone graffitied hit or hi over there? That's pretty weird.
What?
Over there. It says hi or hit.
Where?
I'm not sure. It's like catty corner from us right now.
On what surface is it painted on?
I don't know. It looks like cement. It's blue and white.
Okay, here it is. A modest proposal by Jonathan Swift. For any audience members who are not familiar with this, let's read the wiki about it. A modest proposal for preventing the children of poor people from being a burden to their parents or country, and for making them beneficial to the public, commonly referred to as a modest proposal, is a juvenile satirical essay written and published anonymously by Jonathan Swift in 1729. The essay suggests that the impoverished Irish might ease the economic troubles, or their economic troubles, by selling their children as food to rich gentlemen and ladies. This satirical hyperbole mocked heartless attitudes towards the poor, as well as British policy towards the Irish in general. In English writing, the phrase, quote, a modest proposal, end quote, is now conventionally an allusion, not illusion, allusion to this style of straight-faced satire. So my WAP for KAP bit is just that. It is a modest proposal. It is juvenile, absolutely, but it is straight-faced satire saying...
Wait, I'm gonna read that.
Well, I just closed it out. What did you want to read?
What a juvenalian?
Juvenalian means, like, using stupid, childish humor to make a serious grown-up point.
Yeah.
That's juvenalian.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's based off juvenile, right?
Yeah. I was like, the word looks like juvenile.
So, WAP for KAP, I consider a modest proposal. I consider it a juvenalian satire, in that I've got a wet ass pussy to kill all poor. That's the idea. And so the premise was that as president, I guaranteed to end your suffering. I would guarantee to end your suffering by killing you, but only if you are poorer than me. And my metric for poor is essentially how much wealth you have. And if your wealth is tied up in assets, I would, liquidate those assets, smelt them into bullions of wealth, you know? And so you got to start with the homeless, because I'm already pretty fucking poor. And the idea was, you know, relieve them. I think here's part of where the problem came in. You know how we say recession instead of depression? I think perhaps the problem with the last episode, with the proposal, the way it was proposed, is simply a matter of language. So what if instead of saying I would, as president, kill the homeless, what if it was relieve them of suffering? See, that works better. Like the Homeland Security or Department of Defense is the War Department. It was called the War Department until like the 40s. You know that?
I mean, it's all about rephrasing things and making it sound better than what it actually is.
Like 1984.
Yeah.
Newspeak.
Yep.
So, okay, so the premise is like, I'm already not very wealthy, so relieve those who are less wealthy than me of their suffering and acquire their wealth. And that would bump me up to another level of wealth, right?
Yes.
And then that would also put my wealth above other people, you know? And what I'm gonna do with all the wealth that I acquire from, again, this is just playing out the premise of the satirical, juvenalian premise of WAP for KAP, wet ass pussy for kill all poor. If I were to acquire the wealth, what I would do with it is just hoard it. I would just hoard it all. I just keep it all for myself.
When you have so much money, that's all you really can do with it. There's only so much that you can spend.
I disagree. I think you could use money if you were so inclined. If you do have billions of dollars, perhaps you could use it to out-lobby lobbyists to short-circuit the vicious cycle of lobbying for neoliberal policies, that is, lobbying against any type of socialist policies that would benefit everyone. I would lobby to... One could use their billions of dollars to out-lobby, to outbid other lobbyists, to force, let's go specifically, to force the outright abolition of something like Citizens United, you know?
Yeah.
Or to do something like what Jeremy Corbyn was trying to do in England, which is essentially get in policies that, that would work if implemented, to basically bump out the hierarchical establishment of most workplaces and replace them with workers-owned cooperatives. So basically, lobby into reality bills that could or that would allow workers to own the means of production, workers to not be exploited, you know? And that's a whole other fucking thing. But instead of doing that, hoard it all, because that's the only way you become a billionaire, is by taking other people's money and hoarding it for yourself, period. No one can do enough work to get $1 billion, not even Tyler Perry. Even if he was homeless, the way he got fucking $1 billion is by, well, you could over time get $1 billion worth of revenue. However, how many people are working under your employ? Because he's got his own production company, studios, etc. He owns that means of production, of producing films. Yeah. So he has hundreds, thousands of people working for him to make those films. He does not do every single thing by himself, does he?
Definitely not.
And so all the money, it's just unequal. He gets paid for... He gets more money for the work that someone else does. This is not a fucking lesson on a critique of capitalism, people. This is just saying, essentially, doing what people are already doing. Decision makers, you know, people in major leadership positions, they're holding on to the money. So my way, or the WAP for KAP program, would be to, you know, relieve anyone of their suffering, acquire their wealth, wholesale, and all to myself as president. And then and that would bump me up, and then just keep that process going and going and going, because one, it's ending people's suffering because they're living in debt and, you know, just terrible fucking conditions all over the world. Plus climate change that's not going to end anytime soon, so why not end people's suffering before they have to live like 80 years sweating and burning alive on the earth? It's a blessing. I think it was a gracious proposal, don't you?
No.
Well, eventually the thing is, like, you know, rich just want to get rid of all the poor, push out all the poor, and then just have like you know, country club earth, you know?
I think that they would try to take each other out, theoretically.
Well, eventually they would try to take each other out because they would be out of slaves.
Yeah.
Somebody's
got to work.
And they would be out of slaves to build automated machines and AI to do the work for them, right?
Sure.
Because they're not going to build the fucking AI and machines themselves.
No.
Fucking Elon Musk is not a scientist. He's not an engineer. He's a fucking businessman. He's a fucking marketer. People like jizz themselves over Elon Musk. The guy is not a genius.
No.
And he's not a science guy. Period. Hate to break it to you. I hope I lost subscribers over this. Because...
I don't know. All it takes is a quick search and you'll figure that one out.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, they would eventually try to take each other out. But the thing is, with the WAP for KAP program, I will have not just the wealth, but the hearts and souls of all those who were suffering, whom I relieved of their suffering. And then eventually, I mean, it would come down to, like, you know, standoff between the 18 most rich people in the world, who together right now own more money than the bottom 50% of the entire Earth's population in terms of wealth. It'd come down to a showdown, but I think with the faith and modesty and common sense of the WAP for KAP program, I think I could be the last man standing. So that's essentially the WAP for KAP program that's in the last episode, but it's presented in a much more acted out way.
It's clean and friendly. The last one was a little 4chan-y. I was a little worried about people getting 4chan'd on it.
I did bust out my big ass Bowie knife.
Yeah.
Audio listeners, you know, you could hear it. You could hear the big dick energy of my Bowie knife when I took it out of its leather sheath.
Yeah, that happened.
So yeah, that's a secret episode. If you're interested in something, I'm not gonna put it on YouTube because the content of it, I mean, it's funny. It's really fucking funny. And I wore a top hat and a frilly shirt. But maybe not something I should put on just like YouTube.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a missing episode.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. There are a lot of questionable people out there, and we wouldn't want them to start legitimately thinking these things.
Although I did say throughout the thing that it was satire.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to care.
See, that's the thing. You can tell anybody. People are so... Oh my god. I get so pissed off. It's Facebook. It's Facebook mostly. I get people who get all fucking huffy and pissy with me saying like, oh, you're just helping Trump? How dare you gotta be happy with Biden? You gotta be happy. You gotta love it. Are you one of those noble non-voters? And it's like, people cannot fucking tell parody and satire when it hits them in the face.
They also don't understand that criticism doesn't mean that you're just going to bounce out.
Yes.
Of a situation. You're allowed to be critical of things. It's just life. That's life. You don't have to love every second of everything that's given to you. And just because I see that I'm being handed a shit sandwich doesn't mean that I can't acknowledge that I'm being handed a shit sandwich.
And I think it's critical to criticize, to bring up the actual, criticisms, the things that you can criticize, because without that, we'd never face the problems that we keep running into over and over and over. The reason we got here, where we are right now, is the way I view it is like an alcoholic hitting rock bottom. Or any kind of addictive personality can end up hitting rock bottom. And the reason that happens is because of a couple things. Well, one thing really, it all comes down to the choices you make. And one of the choices people who end up hitting rock bottom often make are continuing to believe in the narrative that they create for themselves, right? Yeah. Just keep telling yourself, this is who I am, this is how I am, this is how the world is, over and over and over, and you keep making problems. Like, oh, I'm not the problem, you're the problem. When, like, you're the drunk who's, punching fucking holes in the wall and getting cops called on you all the time.
I also think that a big issue are the lies that parents tell children when you can do anything. You set your mind to it, you can do it. But that's not realistic. There's only so much that a human being can do, and when you think that anything is possible, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna be let down.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, it goes a lot further than the United States, but as far as the United States, I would say we're at rock bottom right now.
Yes, but we'll see. For addicts and the United States, there could be a lower rock bottom that we haven't seen yet.
Well, there's always a lower rock bottom,
yeah.
And that ends with death.
They're going to be a little lower.
Yeah, it could be. Living without the WAP for KAP program, which will end your suffering. But when you're at rock bottom, the way to get out of rock bottom is you really have to face your real behavior, face your shortcomings, face your behavior, and maybe face things that led you to have that kind of behavior. Face your traumas.
Yeah.
Face your traumas that end up leading you to perpetuate trauma in your own life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is uncomfortable. But that's the way to get out of rock bottom, is to recognize how you got there in the first place. And that's basically just a bunch of shit working out of trauma and fear, right?
Yes.
So, I say, when I criticize Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I'm not saying vote for Trump. I'm saying you need to fucking acknowledge those things, and you also need to fucking acknowledge why Trump is so popular, or why any of those types of, libertarian nutbags, and Republicans are not the only libertarians. And not just libertarians. The fucking Democrats are basically libertarians, just with...
Moderate Democrats are Republicans.
Moderate Democrats are Republicans, yes. So, if we do not criticize and fully understand why we ended up where we are right now, why Trump became so popular and elected, and it was not... I'm sure, yeah, maybe I can flirt with the idea that, sure, yeah, Russia may try to do some stuff, but did Russia write fucking racism into our Constitution?
No.
Did Russia make people racist in general?
Did Russia keep the Electoral College?
Did Russia keep the Electoral College? Did Russia cause the ever-growing fucking wage gap in this country? No, 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 no. The whole Russia thing's just a fucking scapegoat to avoid criticizing our leadership, be it Republican and Democrat, together.
Yeah.
Because they are both the ones.
Two-party system is flawed.
Yeah. Well, we've got a one-party system, really.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you really, really, really want things to get better without having to have a sort of come to Jesus moment with yourself as a country or as an individual, vote for the WAP for KAP program. We'll be right back. And we're back. Content. What the fuck to talk about? I don't really know what the fuck to talk about, just because this is part of the problem. I don't know what to talk about. What should we talk about? The thing I just did?
Probably.
Okay. So I was looking at Wikipedia for Labor Day, since we're recording on Labor Day weekend. Tomorrow's Labor Day. Although once this episode is released, it'll be after Labor Day, but not long. But I'm not sure I want to get into that. But I had a great English teacher in high school, Mr. Thompson. Thank you. You fucking rock. We didn't use textbooks, period, because he rightfully believed that textbooks were inaccurate, especially history textbooks.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about this on the unreleased, the secret episode, wink, about how, I can't think of the name of the company, but I know everyone watching the show would recognize this company that makes these textbooks. It's like McKesson and something like that. It's a Texas company. I know for sure there's one, but I think there might be a few Texas-based textbook companies that have a monopoly on textbooks used in public schools throughout the United States, throughout all 50 states. And these things are highly, highly propagandized by conservative libertarian types that, there's a lot of in Texas. And a lot of that stuff leans toward benefiting those who already have and further exploiting those who have not. that's another conversation. But my history teacher in high school, he would just do lectures. He taught it like a college class. He had actual like history books, not textbooks, but actual history books like you would see in any college history class. And he would lecture and we would take notes. And we never had any tests or pop quizzes other than a midterm and a final, which we would do in a blue book.
Oh, yeah.
We did blue book tests. We do an in-class essay and do essay answers to a few different questions, of which you select like 3 out of 5 questions. You write a few paragraphs and answer, and then you write however many 100+ word essay on a topic of your choosing from like 3 different subjects that we covered. So not only was he like really teaching us history, but also preparing us for college, which, I mean...
And teaching you critical thinking.
And teaching us critical thinking. So, again, Mr. Thompson, you fucking rock. Thank you. But one of the things he taught us that I don't imagine you'd get covered in your average history class, if it's taught from a textbook, is labor laws and why Labor Day exists. Do you know the history of all that stuff?
No.
So basically, there were monopolies and 0 labor laws. So children, and this was also a huge product of industrialization, factory working and stuff. There were no limit on hours to work, and there was no limit. There was no such thing as a minimum wage. There were no such things as overtime. And there were no such things as like working age. Children worked. You would get pennies. You would work in terrible conditions. There was like no OSHA standards. There were rats. Like people would find, like consumers would get like a can of tomatoes and there would be a rat in it.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And that's real shit. You were about to say?
I remember reading about those sort of terrible conditions back in the day.
Another little thing that came from like labor laws is doors, door hinges, what ways doors should open. So if you ever notice, if you go to a person's house, the door opens inward, in toward the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to, say, a movie theater or a public school, the doors don't open toward the interior, they open outward, right? Out to the outside of the building. That's because the amount of fires that would happen in these factories where men, women, and children by the hundreds would get just burned alive because they were stuck because the doors didn't open outward, they opened toward the interior of the building. And when so many people, dozens of people are bum rushing the doors to get to a fire, it's like Black Friday, but the door won't fucking open because you basically jammed it shut with all your bodies trying to escape the fire, and you all burn alive. So child labor laws were invented because of labor unions, labor activists, and all of which were, most importantly, socialists. This stuff came about when socialism was growing really hot in the United States. It was growing really hot in a lot of the European world through the 20s. You know, there's the 1918, I think that was the revolution in Russia, right? Maybe, I'm not 100% sure, but I know for sure that in the 20s and especially in the 30s, oddly enough, around the time of the Great Depression, oddly enough, we're in a pandemic and a depression right now, and it seems that socialism's becoming quite popular again.
Yep, it usually is when there are pandemics going on.
Or just massive wealth disparity, lack of humanity and empathy, shitty living conditions, so on and so forth. Well, socialist organizers such as Big Bill Haywood. Big Bill Haywood. He was the union guy. And I've talked about him before on this show, Eugene V. Debs. And I love this quote. While there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. Socialist. Labor rights. Rights for you as a worker, a working person. You who don't get paid your fucking worth. Like, when people say, I want to get paid, I want to get paid my worth, that doesn't fucking exist in capitalism, at least, because it is inherently built into the equation of how a workplace is set up within a capitalist economy. Like, the equation is set up where your boss always takes more money than that boss themselves generates. So you create so much labor. Look up, this might have to be another episode to, really pare down the inherent contradiction in capitalism, the problem with it, the reason it doesn't work, period, again and again and again, collapses every 7 years or so. The reason it doesn't work is because of the inherent way that it's set up. And if you want someone to really help explain that to you in a very easy to understand and digestible way, go to YouTube and look up Richard D, letter D, Wolff, W-O-L-F-F, Richard D. Wolff. He has a lot of lectures and other videos where he writes out a very simple equation on basically how capitalism works and why it doesn't work. But anyway, there were a lot of people who understood that this didn't work, and who understood that it also led to terrible life conditions and terrible working conditions. And so they unionized, they did wildcat protests. Do you know what the difference between a wildcat protest is and a regular strike? Wildcat strike versus a regular strike?
What?
Wildcat strike is done without a union, and it's like technically illegal. Technically it's like against the law, but it's when a bunch of workers just say, fuck you, we're not doing this anymore, and go on strike and make demands and stay on strike until those demands are met.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Super simplified. That's how we ended up with an 8-hour workday. So we ended up with weekends. That's how we ended up with overtime pay. That's how we ended up with minimum wage. The whole idea of minimum wage. That's how we ended up with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. All this shit is socialist. This is all workers who got together, the word is called solidarity, and fought for a single cause. And that's why we have Labor Day. And it's totally fucking violated and bastardized by your lovely Labor Day sales. And the fact that
there's still people laboring on Labor Day.
There's still people laboring on Labor Day. There's still people working more than 40 hours a week. There are still people who don't get weekends,
It's my first weekend.
Why is it your first weekend?
I got an office job.
She got an office job and now she has weekends.
It's a weird thing. Weird times.
And nights to yourself.
Oh yeah, nights too.
Well, that was a bit of a tangent. That's not what we were going to talk about.
I thought you were talking about Reddit.
Yeah. I was just on Reddit. I was like, what if I go to Ask Reddit and look for some content? And I saw an Ask Reddit about like, what is the most overrated book you've ever read? What's the most overrated book you've ever read?
I was going to say one that I've only read like 2 pages of.
Which is?
War and Peace.
War and Peace?
I wasn't a fan.
Was it just like boring and
I wanted to go to sleep.
Just long-winded?
Yeah.
You know why like stuff like War and Peace or any kind of like Charles Dickens books, do you know why they're so fucking long and wordy?
Because they got paid by the word?
Because they got paid by the word.
I would be long and wordy too at that point.
And at least for like Charles Dickens and a lot of his contemporaries, they weren't publishing just books. They were publishing basically episodics in the newspaper. Like a new chapter would come out every week in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And since a lot of people didn't know how to read, in London, there were some people who were literate who, like, a neighborhood or a building would hire this person, and they'd all gather together, and this person would read the stories to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd like that job. Most overrated book I've ever read. I don't think I have a overrated book that I've read just because I have great taste in literature.
How's Finnegan's Wake going?
Fuck you. Okay, Finnegan's Wake is impenetrable, and I wanted to read it, and
I bought it for him.
Yeah, and you won't let me forget that either.
Nope.
Yeah, if you wanna like get really frustrated and hate yourself to like read some highly controversial classic literature, read Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. Jesus Christ. I've tried to get it. I'm like still on page 90 for the past 5 years.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
But there was, when I was reading the comments on this post on Ask Reddit, that was the question, is what's the most overrated book you've ever read? And one of the commenters said, the number of people saying Catcher in the Rye in this thread is disturbing to me. I think they missed the point.
Yeah.
And so a commenter below that said, what is the point? I'm not being facetious, but could you please, like, enlighten me? What's the point of Catcher in the Rye? What's the point of Catcher in the Rye? Is it just about some, like, edgy teen?
No.
Some, like, teenage edgelord in the 40s? You're phony!
No, but that would be kind of hilarious.
Just like some, it's like just some 4chan kid.
Yeah, he's like, I hate everything, I'm so mad.
Dude, Holden Caulfield in the 21st century would just be fucking flame war. He'd be a troll. He'd be a total troll.
He would definitely be a troll.
But, okay, so what's the point of the book, though? Enlighten me. What?
You had the better answer for it.
I want to hear yours first. I know I have a superior answer, so I want to hear yours first so I look better.
No.
What is it?
No comment.
You gotta tell it.
I speak nothing.
You have to say it.
I don't speak the English.
Alright, when you read the book, what did you get from it? What did you take away from it when you read it?
I mean, I got that it's alienating, the alienation of the human experience is what I got from it.
You want to unpack that?
No.
That's a phrase I learned in grad school. Can you unpack that for me?
Well, I just think that there are all of these questions that are being posed that he's asking, you know, and they sound silly, but when you look at it, each of those questions implies like a greater thought to it. There's more going on than just his whiny, bitchy bullshit.
Being a whiny edgelord teenager calling everyone a phony.
Yeah. You're phony.
You're a phony. What I took, my response to the person on Reddit was essentially, it's basically an existentialist question. The whole work is an existentialist question. And that's what J.D. Salinger, the writer of Catcher in the Rye, does with, like, at least all of the stories that I've read of his. They all pose existentialist questions that he himself asks through the characters. So in the case of Catcher in the Rye, he is speaking and looking through the teenage character of Holden Caulfield, who is recalling this wild week or few days he had before eventually getting committed to a mental health hospital after having a massive nervous breakdown. And basically, it's existentialist in that Holden Caulfield is kind of, he's having like a sort of moment of clarity, so to speak, where he begins to see the utter vapidness and meaninglessness of the world he finds himself in, be it television shows, reasons to do anything, reasons to go to a job, questioning the airs people put on to obscure, to hide the sadness and suffering they may be feeling. You know, people wear masks in different situations, right?
Yes.
People put on different masks to deal with different situations. But Holden was trying to peer behind that mask. And basically, he was just looking for meaning to his existence. He was looking for meaning in realizing that it could not be found in popular and traditional culture, be it in terms of like the United States, popular religion, TV shows, jobs, prescribed lives, you know, get a job, go to school, get a job, have a family, die. You know, he saw that as unsettling and it didn't make him feel good. And so that's basically what it's about, as it's an existentialist question. And he does that also. Did you ever read Franny and Zoe?
No, you've read me excerpts.
Franny and Zoe is another J.D. Salinger book. It's a brother and a sister, Franny and Zoe. And I think they're part of a broader family that he kind of always comes back to, the Glass family. Franny and Zoe Glass. This is recurring characters that Salinger uses in his stories. But Franny and Zoe is a book put together. It's starts out with Franny, the sister, and that one's a short story. She has a nervous breakdown, trying to find, realizing that everything that she's been told is not 100% true, and that her life lacks meaning, and she wants meaning. And then that short story is followed by a novella called Zoe Glass. And Zoe's a boy. It's Franny's brother. He's a failed actor. And he's also having a sort of a nervous breakdown moment as well, trying again to find meaning in his life. So for the people who say Catcher in the Rye sucks and it's just about some like teenage edgelord, you're a phony.
What's a book that you want to read?
The ones that I fucking got that I just, with my fucking pandemic quarantine brain, have not been able to pick up. I want to continue reading Capital Volume 1, and I want to pick up that book that I bought on John Brown. Yeah, that's 2 books I want to read. And I've also been trying to read this. I have been picking away at this Kurt Vonnegut book, Galapagos. This is the first Vonnegut book that I've just not been able to get into.
Yeah. I mean, you can like an author and not like everything that they make.
No, you have to like literally everything that someone does if you like the person.
False. You can support them with some of their works and not all of it.
Look, if you have any criticisms of Joe Biden, then you're only helping Trump. Oh, you're still gonna vote for Biden, but you're gonna criticize him? You're helping Trump. You're the problem.
You gonna ask me what book I want to read?
I guess. What book do you want to read?
I want to read him thinking of ending things.
What is that? Is that a suicide book?
I'm not sure.
I'm thinking of ending things?
It is. But everybody keeps talking about it. It turned into a TV show, and I want to read the book first.
Who's the author?
Or a movie.
Who's the author?
I don't know.
I'm thinking of ending things. Sounds like suicide to me.
It probably is. It's probably going to put me in a mood.
And honestly...
I heard it had it's very weird and out there.
Well, if you're thinking of ending things, don't. Because relief is coming soon with my WAP for KAP program. Vote Wet Ass Pussy 2020. Thanks for tuning in. You got anything else you want to say?
No.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to this show. To those of you who are returning to the show, thank you for doing so. Share the show with your friends, family, loved ones, and strangers. It's fun for everyone. And for those of you too, my donors at Patreon, thank you so much. You guys rock. And thank you for still sticking with me, even though I've been not getting the content, grinding the content out quite as much lately. Just been dealing with my own kind of nervous breakdown. And if you want, if you're able to, please support the show. Patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is @JamesJAsher. And thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Bye. It's lasagna time.